Hi everyone, I'm Vinod and welcome to Career Bolt. It's everyone's dream to get into a top-ranked university like MIT, Harvard, Stanford. But I'm going to tell you something very different today. I'm going to give you 10 reasons why you should not be studying at a top-ranked university. And hopefully this will give you some more perspective in terms of how the US admissions process works. So first point is that one needs to understand that the US college education system is not very brand conscious. Unlike India, where everyone aspires to get into the top IITs or the NITs, not everyone in the US wants to get into the top ranked universities for lots of reasons. For example, if a person from the West Coast may want to study in California or study in Seattle rather than study in the East Coast in Ivy League universities. So not everyone goes to Ivy League universities. And it's very easy to extrapolate the Indian experience and say that unless you study in a top school or university, it's not worth it. But that is not how the US model works. You can go to any university and get well-paying jobs. So that really is something which not everyone is aware of. Also, when you talk about brands, it all depends on which undergrad program or graduate program or PhD program you're applying for. So for example, if you're looking at undergrad programs, what really matters is not where you did your undergrad. So even if you do, say, an undergrad at MIT versus doing an undergrad at Rice University, it's gonna make almost no difference to your career in terms of where you end up finding jobs. Rice University is based over Texas, and you could actually find very good jobs in Texas once you finish your degree. So you don't need to study at MIT to get good jobs. So during the undergrad program, it just doesn't matter where you do it, as long as you do it from, say, a top 20 or top 25 university. Almost all the universities in the top 20 or top 25 have an equally good reputation. You don't need to study at MIT or Harvard to stand out from others. Likewise, if you're looking at, say, the master's degree population, it maybe matters a little bit more where you do your master's degrees. And a lot of people who do their master's degrees or graduate programs come from India and China and other Asian countries. So yes, where you do your master's programs matters a little in terms of where you end up with jobs. But end of the day, the difference is not that big. So even if you go to a top 20 university, do a master's program, most companies pretty much consider it the same. They don't differentiate between the top 20 programs. And if you're looking at tech companies, they recruit heavily from the top 10 universities, and they do not specifically give emphasis to just the top 3 universities or top 5 universities. It's not like Google and Facebook only recruit at Berkeley, Stanford, MIT, and so on. They equally go to Purdue University. They equally go to Wisconsin-Madison. They equally go to the University of Illinois, University of Michigan, and so on. So most companies do not really differentiate. It does matter a little when it comes to PhD programs, because in PhD programs, reputation does matter when it comes to finding good jobs. For example, if you want to get a job in the top 10 universities, once you finish your undergrad, especially in academia as an assistant professor, they do expect that you also graduated from a top 5 university or top 10 university to end up with a job in the top 10 universities. If you study in the top 20 universities, but not in the top 10 universities, it's very difficult to find a job in the top 10 universities. You may have to go between ranks, say, 20 to 50. And that's really how the PhD output is. And that's how the ranking system plays some role when it comes to the PhD programs. But there are lots of ways where things are different. I'll touch on it later. So this is point one. Point number two is that when it comes to industry compensation, industries pretty much pay the same to every person who joins their company, irrespective of where they graduated from, whether you graduated from Texas A&M University in computer science, or if you've gone and did your MIT computer science, it doesn't matter. Your base compensation, your bonuses are pretty much the same for every person. There could be a small difference that they give a higher sign-on bonus for a person from a top university like Berkeley, Stanford, or MIT, just because it's so more difficult to recruit people from there, but it's a one-time payment. And once you join the workforce, you're treated exactly like everyone else. You're not going to be treated specially or put on a platter and given special benefits. So from a company perspective, once you join a company, everybody starts on the same playing field. The third piece is around, I touched on this a little earlier, but Industries treat everyone the same. They don't differentiate. Academia, it could be a little different. Like I said, in academia, what matters a lot is research. Even if you've gone to practically an unknown university and do some excellent publishing, and your publishing record is way more than someone who's gone to study at, say, MIT or Harvard, you will get the academic jobs even more than the person who graduated from MIT and Harvard. So brand recognition is not that important. It's more important to have a very good publishing record. As long as your publishing record is stellar, you will get into the best of universities. You don't necessarily need to study at the top universities. But considering that you have an average record when it comes to research, then it does matter. A person from, say, the top 10 universities will definitely stand a better chance over, say, a person who's gone to a top 30 university in the US. That's the nature of the game. Let's also look at other factors. When you're looking at, say, universities like Stanford, Berkeley, or MIT, where are they located? Stanford and Berkeley are located in the San Francisco Bay Area region. And a place like MIT is located in Boston, the Cambridge region. What stands out is that they are all in big cities, very, very expensive places to be in. So if you're going to, say, Columbia University in the heart of New York, or if you're going to, say, Berkeley or Stanford in the Bay Area, it's very, very expensive to be there. So if you are making maybe $3,000 to $4,000 a month as a student, it is barely just enough to survive. The cost of living is extremely high in the Bay Area. So the stipends given by universities are also much higher. So in fact, you're going to be spending a lot in terms of the cost of living and also in tuition expenses. So if you want to study at, say, a university like MIT in Boston, you're going to be spending close to $3,000 a year just in terms of your lodging, food, and so on. So just enough to survive. But if you're at a Midwest university like, say, Purdue University or Indiana University, you're going to be paying much, much lower costs. Like the University of Michigan is in a place called Ann Arbor, which is a student town. It's practically in the middle of nowhere. It's got excellent placements, but at the end of the day, you can live on very little money. You can live very comfortably on $1,000, $1,500 a month. So your cost of living is much cheaper, which means that you can actually save a lot more when it comes to the stipends you get. Likewise, if you're studying in a private university in the US, like MIT, Berkeley, Stanford, the tuition cost is also much higher, which means that if you're studying in a public university like the University of Michigan, University of Illinois, Indiana University, and so on, you're actually paying way lesser tuition. So again, depending on a financial situation, going to a public university in the Midwest may make a lot of sense, may make a lot of economic sense. And there are excellent placements from the University of Michigan, University of Illinois. It's among the best of universities, Georgia Tech, and so on. So you can practically study there and get great jobs. It doesn't matter whether you studied at Georgia Tech or Stanford. Ultimately, companies would treat you the same. Fifth point I would want to point out is that people tend to take very high student loans to get to study in the top private universities, the ones like Harvard, University of Chicago, Stanford, Berkeley, Northwestern University, and so on. I would strongly ask people to reconsider, because a lot of student loans would mean that it take a lot of time for you to repay the cost of borrowing these student loans. I have a friend who went to University of Chicago Booth to do his MBA program, and he had $200,000 of debt when he finished his MBA. This was around 6 years back. I talked to him a couple of months back, and even today he is still paying the $200,000 in student debt. It's not decreased by a single dollar. And on top of it, he also wants to get a housing mortgage. He's taking a home loan. And that's bizarre, because yes, going to a top university may get you a good job, but you're also spending a lot of money to get that good job. Is it worth it? That's a question you've got to ask yourself. Point number 6 is, from a workplace point of view, what matters is just a couple of things. Your work ethic, how hard you work, how dedicated you are. Are you a pleasant person to work with in the workplace? Do you get along with people? Do you get work done? So these are the things which matter. It doesn't matter where you did your undergrad, grad, PhD program, because as long as you can get your work done, it doesn't matter whether you went to a bottom rank college or a top rank college. As long as you can code, you can get work done, as long as you can make sure that you can collaborate with people, that those are the things which matter. So from a company perspective, everybody starts on the same slate, and it doesn't matter where you graduate. So companies are way more democratic from that perspective. Point number 7 is that it looks like a lot of people who go to MIT and Stanford have great backgrounds. For example, they have gotten gold medals in the mathematics Olympiads, the chemistry Olympiads, physics Olympiads. And I think it's a little bit to do with the fact that people from Asia who look at universities in the US feel that they have to study at a top university to get great jobs. So people who come in with excellent academic backgrounds or won a lot of medals, they preferably try to go to the top universities and pay a lot of money to go there. I think they don't understand how the job market in the US works. That's the reason why they make these mistakes. So if you look at people, you may assume that, oh my gosh, people at Harvard and MIT are chasing their passion in life. And that's why a lot of them become entrepreneurs. The students at Stanford become entrepreneurs versus somebody going to, say, the University of Illinois or Georgia Tech and so on. I would say that the sample space is very biased. People who go to private universities in the East Coast and West Coast tend to be very informed people. They tend to be very rich people. So rich people don't care about spending something like, when doing an undergrad program, they don't mind spending $60,000 a year for tuition and another $40,000 a year for living expenses. So they're spending around $100,000 a year for 4 years for a total of $400,000. And it doesn't matter to them. They have a lot of money. They have money to burn, so it doesn't matter. But for a normal person, yeah, it looks like the rich people are chasing their passions and doing all stuff like entrepreneurship, establishing companies and so on. But they don't understand that they are not normal people. These are well-connected people, rich people who don't need to work. They can pretty much chase their passions very early in life, and they don't need to make a single dollar and support their families. So chasing passion is a reserve of rich people, and that's the nature of reality. So it's not that people at MIT and Stanford chase their passions way more than other universities, just that they are rich people, they can afford to do it. It doesn't matter which university they belong to. The 8th point I want to focus on is, if you're looking at most PhD programs in the US, I did say that research is very important, but also let's look at some other factors, like, for example, the infrastructure in most universities. I would say the top 50, top 100 universities, they have very good infrastructure. So it really is not very different from university to university. If you're looking at the quality of professors teaching, I would say that very, very good professors who have gone to the best of universities like Stanford, Harvard, MIT, Berkeley, Cornell, Columbia, and so on, they study there, and not everyone finds a job in a top university. Many of them come to work in mid-ranked universities. So it's very possible to find excellent professors in Indiana University, Rutgers University, and so on, who have stellar academic backgrounds and who have studied in top-notch places and are well-connected. So you don't need to go to top universities to meet the best of professors. You can find them across the US. And every university has a domain of expertise. They encourage education and specialization in certain areas. So you'll find that, for example, computer science, intelligent machine learning, these are specializations at Georgia Tech. So if you want to study very good computer science, you may prefer to go to Carnegie Mellon University, or you may want to go to Georgia Tech rather than go to, say, Berkeley or MIT. It's all the same. So every college, for example, Stanford has got a center of expertise in environmental engineering. If you want to study video graphics and if you want to study video games, you may want to go to University of Utah, or you may want to study in the University of Southern California, which is very good for filmmaking. So every university has got a domain of expertise, and they have very good faculty members who work there from the best of backgrounds. So you may want to choose universities based on what domains they're good in. So that's something which makes US universities stand out. You can always find pockets of excellence in every university. When it comes to the quality of students, most students are excellent when it comes to PhD programs. It doesn't matter where you do your PhD program. As long as you do it in a top 50 university, you're pretty much as good as anybody in a top 10 university. Of course, when you go beyond the top 100 universities, there could be a quality differential, but As long as the top 30, top 50 universities, it doesn't matter where you do your PhD program. And going back to what I said earlier, it's the research which matters. So if you have an excellent academic background, you can get into Harvard or Stanford as a professor just like that. But then if you don't have a great background, then yes, brands will matter. The ninth point I wanted to say is tech companies are very, very focused on recruiting very good talent from across the world, and they do not care about your backgrounds. So for example, if you went to say California State University in California, but you're very good in coding, you will get selected by companies like Google and Facebook, and they will give you preference over even students from MIT and Harvard if you're good enough. So tech companies do not differentiate. Yes, when it comes to regular recruiting, for example, if you want to be a product manager at Facebook or Google, they do recruit from MIT and Stanford every year on a regular basis. But if you are from a university they don't recruit, you will have to use referrals and then apply to those places. So getting into tech is democratic, but you may have to put in a little bit of effort from your end. If you're good, you will get noticed at the end of the day. That's how it works. The last point I wanted to say is that studying the US or any country outside your home country for that matter is always a great experience. So if you get a fully funded scholarship from a top ranked university like MIT, Harvard, Stanford, go for it. There's absolutely no questions. Like you can forget everything else. If you're not paying for education, just go for it. It's totally worth it. But if you're going to pay for your education, then do look at all these points I mentioned and make a considered decision in terms of, is that the right place where you want to apply and get into? Okay, folks. So if you liked what I'm saying, please subscribe to my channel. That really matters to me. Also post your comments in the section, the comments below, and let me know what your questions are. Thanks everyone for listening to me. Cheers and have a good one.